I'd like to ask the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, I mean, everybody is always saying that the World Bank has recommended the procurement of this gas turbine. But this is, in fact, not the truth, because the case is that the World Bank only recommended the gas turbine as an emergency procurement back in 2015, because it was under impression at that time that we were going to come to blackouts. You remember there were questions in the House, etc. Donc, so it's incorrect to say that the World Bank has recommended the gas turbine for Mauritius. It was an emergency purchase, which 3 years later no longer applies.
Well, that is a question of interpretation. The World Bank report has been tabled, was tabled way back, and whatever it is, the World Bank recommended the construction of these gas turbines. Now, what was in the mind or the intention, and how should we read the World Bank report, we should perhaps revisit. But whatever it is, we have acted on the interpretation which everybody had of that World Bank report. We acted on what all our advisors were saying, which supported what we understood the World Bank to be saying. The tenders are out and we are going ahead with this construction.
I'd like to take this up again with the Deputy Prime Minister and bring the attention of the House to this page 64 of the World Bank report, which says this: additional capacity to be commissioned by 2018. It should have been installed now, is essentially an emergency action.
Of course, what is the ultimate requirement for these gas turbines is that, call it emergency or whatever. Let us take a case example. For instance, there is a drought and there's no hydroelectricity. This gas turbine comes in. This is what we call, what is called here emergency. I call it peak time, or we can call it drought time. Whatever it means, it is that whenever there is a shortfall in capacity and that we require additional power, this gas turbine will step in as an emergency, if we wish. It is not a question of, with the blackout, it was one thing, without blackout, it's another thing.
I maintain, Madam Speaker, that the decision to purchase the gas turbine was an emergency decision to prevent the country into going blackout in 2018. That has never been the case, because demand for electricity has been very, very, very much lower than was predicted by CEB.
Well, I don't agree. We can debate and go on and on. The World Bank had recommended, one, to fast-track Saint-Louis, which we did, extend the PPA of CEL, the CCGT, the combined cycle gas turbines, were emergency in the sense that they would come in whenever there was a shortfall of electricity. Not in the sense of the blackout which was predicted. It was necessary to forecast additional power. Let us be realistic. A power station is not built in one day. Even Rome was not built in one day. Now, a power station takes 4 or 5 years, even more with the planning, forecast, etc. At that time, 2015, they said we must build this combined cycle, and everyone everyone had forecasted a blackout, but even now everyone knows that we need to have additional power if we want to cater for future development of Mauritius.
Is that the Deputy Prime Minister must take more time to look at this contract, because this is a contract with a value of 6 to 8 billion rupees, and it cannot be left to some members of the CEB to come and decide. So, Madam Speaker, I'm going to ask the Deputy Prime Minister, and this is why I had asked, this is the last board paper, one of the board papers of the CEB, and this is where the demand and supply table is. And it's, Madam Speaker, I will ask the Deputy Prime Minister whether he is aware that the CEB has, in my mind, deliberately overstated demand. You can easily see it even for this year, they are 20 megawatts over, has deliberately overstated demand for electricity, and to me it looks deliberate also, pulled out retired machines. You're talking about peak demand, they are retiring 2 gas turbine machines at Nicolet before their useful life was over, and in my mind it is to create an artificial need for this gas turbine. Is he aware, and will you look quite closely at this terrible state of affairs?
Well, not only I'm not aware, I would go as far to say that not only I disagree, I will go even further to say that I deny each and every of these allegations that are being made by saying that there is a deliberate intention in misleading the population, according to me, is, to put it as mildly as I can muster, unfounded. If there are errors, that is another thing, but I don't believe that there are errors. I've looked into all these matters myself. Every week, I look after this.
I want to ask the Deputy Prime Minister this question. There are 2 gas turbines in perfect working condition after so many years. They are old in Nicolet. They can be repaired, not repaired, they can be kept in use, maintained for many years to come. Why does CEB want to retire these 2 Nicolet gas turbines now, in the next 10 years, whereas, again, in the World Bank report, there's no mention of the need to retire these 2 perfectly good working order gas turbines used for peaking?
The Nicolet engines date back 30 years. Now, you tell me that they are in good working order. Right. My daughter has a Golf which is 15 years old. She doesn't want me to sell it because she says it's still in good working order. Well, of course, everything is in good. The 2 pill stick engines at Saint-Louis were working, but we can't just say for 10 years we'll keep that. Then, what will happen to me the day these Nicolet machines break down and I can't supply electricity to the nation? You will tell me I'm the worst idiot in Mauritius. Then I will tell you. You know what will be my reply? The end. We can't say only the Nicolet turbine works. Everyone owns a car here. Don't we have to maintain? The cost of maintaining is prohibitive. And do you know how much we're paying electricity with? It's costing us 30 rupees the kilowatt hour. Are we going to sustain this, making the population sustain it? At 30 rupees per kilowatt hour, Nicolet, today, compared to what? About 5 rupees the cost, or whatever. No. No. Yeah, I tell you. Well, we can have divergence. Okay, I don't want to waste time. Yeah.
Well, the Deputy Prime Minister is older, and I hear still in good working condition. So, what I'm saying is this. The turbines at Nicolet, it's a very serious matter, in fact. The turbines at Nicolet have only 22,000 hours. They can go to 200,000 hours. Ask anyone you like. So,
Ask him.
And they can go to 200,000 hours. And whether or not they are more expensive, not as much as you say, as the new engines, they don't require 8 billion rupees of new investment. Whereas what you are doing there for peaking is 8 billion rupees of more investment that the country does not need.
I'm sorry, this is third word ideology. So we are a modern country, we are looking to becoming a high-income economy. We don't do that sort of thing, fiddling around with machines in order to make them run and run and run. You make me think of the taxi brousse of Madagascar. This is not a taxi brousse. This is a high machine and we have a duty to the country. I'm sorry, I don't agree, and it's a good thing that you are no longer in charge in government and that we are in charge in government.
Speaker, what the Deputy Prime Minister decides to do with his daughter's golf is his own affair. But when you ask the taxpayer to pay 8 billion rupees for turbines that are not necessary, this is another issue, Madam Speaker. And all the engineers of CEB are shocked. How did I get this information? Because all the engineers of CEB are shocked at the amateur way or whatever other reason that the management of CEB and God knows who else have in creating an artificial case for purchasing of a gas turbine. And now, Madam Speaker, may I ask the Deputy Prime Minister, this gas turbine, which is supposed to be converted to liquid natural gas, the tender is issued, whereas the potent report on the feasibility of using natural gas in Mauritius has not yet been read by the ministry. What sense does it make to purchase equipment and then order a feasibility study to see whether that equipment can be used for gas?
Oh, then it must be my fault. It must be that for the last 2 years I've been unable to explain that matter clearly for the leader of the position to come to that conclusion. First of all, the leader of the position asked me in this question that many engineers at CEB say that has been done on purpose, etc. Well, I say I don't know of one engineer who says so. It's of one engineer of CEB, of one engineer of the CEB who said so. Well, it's easy to say it. In confidence, he can tell me, Mr. X has told me this. Now, second thing, all the senior engineers of CEB to whom I've talked are of that opinion. But not only the engineers of CEB. In my ministry, there is a technical division headed by a director general with a deputy director general. He tells me the same thing. In addition to this, I have a personal advisor. He tells me the same thing. They all tell me that this is what World Bank says, this is what EDF says. Now, I'm like the leader of the opposition, he's an accountant, I'm a lawyer. We proceed on advice, technical advice given to us. Each one receives the advice he receives, and we come to the conclusion. All these people are saying only this thing which I've just said. Now, perhaps the leader of the opposition has one advisor who is saying the contrary, and perhaps the world is wrong and one person is right. It has happened in history.
You don't seem to master the subject, if I may say so. You're relying on advisors. We have in the side of the opposition completely different reading of the same World Bank report.
It's easy to say, you don't master your subject. One is an accountant, the other one is a lawyer. one pretends that he masters the technical aspects of electric engineering. I say I work as a team. I know the leader of the opposition may have his party members to discuss. Now I understand why. Because I work on a team and I master my subject because I look at the documents, I work on them, I listen to advice.